You're about to be surprised by what I'm going to share. And if you're seeing this right now, it's no accident. You were outnumbered, yet you still won. And as a chosen one, that's often your story, isn't it? The odds look stacked against you, but somehow, through faith and resilience, you come out on top. It may shock you to see how everything is turning in your favor, but believe it. This is proof that your path is guided by forces beyond the visible. Before we uncover the meaning behind your latest triumph, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop 77 in the comments to send a powerful signal to the universe. Watch on repeat if you want to deepen its energy. And remember, if you're really chosen, you'll stay till the end. If not, you'll likely click away. Chapter 1. Recognizing the stacked odds. You know that feeling when you walk into a room and sense that the numbers aren't on your side? Maybe it's a business meeting, a family gathering, or even a social event. People look at you, or certain energies swirl, and you just know you're not in the majority. For chosen ones, this scenario is familiar. From an early age, you've noticed that your vantage point, your creativity, or your moral stance sets you apart, occasionally clashing with the group consensus. Most would buckle under that social or professional pressure. But you manage to hold your ground, even if your voice is the lone spark in a sea of doubt. It might be that, in group discussions, your ideas sound too radical, or in familial arguments, your compassion stands out as too soft compared to the cynicism around you. Maybe you've been that person who sees the bigger picture, while others only focus on short-term gains, labeling you impractical or naive. Over time, these repeated encounters build a pattern. You often find yourself outnumbered, 2, 5, or even 10 people to 1. Yet paradoxically, you keep finding ways to steer outcomes in your favor, or at least preserve your integrity without being smothered by the collective opinion. This dynamic can be exhausting. There might have been moments you considered giving in just to avoid conflict or alienation. But a quiet voice inside always insisted that you stand firm, that your perspective was vital not just for you but for the greater good. That's the chosen one's burden and gift, feeling compelled to hold your truth, even when it contradicts the crowd. And guess what? Each time you do, you strengthen a spiritual muscle that allows you to remain authentic under pressure. That muscle is your faith and your calling, your unwavering sense that you're here for something larger than easy acceptance. Surprisingly, when you operate from that place of truth, people who initially oppose you often end up gravitating to your stance, or at least they respect it. Overcoming a group that tries to dilute your essence doesn't always mean winning in a traditional sense. Sometimes it's about being heard, shifting the momentum of a conversation, or sparking a seed of change in someone else's mind. Even if they don't openly admit it, your presence and conviction can haunt them, in a good way, prompting them to reconsider their ingrained assumptions. So if you're reflecting on a recent scenario where you stood out, overshadowed by numbers, but still emerged with your spirit unbroken, or even triumphant, take it as a sign. This pattern recurs because you're meant to learn from it and eventually lead others by your example. Being outnumbered is your training ground, shaping you into a force that cannot be easily swayed or silenced. When the time comes for bigger challenges, ones that require major decisions, community impact, or global resonance, you'll be fully prepared. After all, you've been outnumbered countless times and still found the inner grit to forge ahead, which is the hallmark of a soul chosen for extraordinary feats. Chapter 2. The Secret of Holding Firm Under Pressure. It's one thing to know you're outnumbered. It's another to maintain composure when the majority is dismissive or even hostile. How do you keep yourself from buckling under collective weight? For most chosen ones, it's not about memorizing strategies or lines. It's about an internal alignment, a sense that your stance isn't just personal preference, but a spiritual directive. You hold an inner calm rooted in the conviction that you're part of a greater plan, which can't be overshadowed by the crowd's noise. One crucial secret is managing your own emotional state. When you're cornered, it's easy to lash out or become defensive. But if you can remain grounded, your calmness becomes an unexpected power. It disarms the opposition, who might expect you to fume or crumble. When you don't, they're left, grappling with their own intensity. Instead of meeting chaos with chaos, you offer a steady presence. This flips the dynamic. You might be solo in your opinion, but your serenity wields more influence than 100 angry voices combined. Another aspect is the clarity of your purpose. If you're just spouting contrarian viewpoints for attention, your resolve will falter once push comes to shove. But if your perspective emerges from deep reflection, compassion, or conviction, it's rock solid. This authenticity shows through in your tone, your body language, and the examples you cite. People sense that you're not bluffing or posturing. You genuinely believe in what you're saying. That authenticity has a gravitational pull, drawing open-minded individuals to reconsider their assumptions, or at least to hear you out more respectfully. Then there's the matter of spiritual backing. Chosen ones often sense invisible support, call it angels, ancestors, or universal energy, bolstering them when they stand for truth. You might have felt it as a sudden rush of confidence mid-debate or an uncanny calm that descends when tension peaks. It's a reminder that you're never truly alone, even if no one in the room sides with you at first. That intangible support can embolden you to articulate your points with nuance or recall facts you didn't realize you had internalized. It's as if the universe orchestrates small lessons to level the playing field. Of course, holding firm doesn't mean being inflexible. Sometimes the crowd has valid insights, and as a chosen one, you must discern truth from noise. If you detect a kernel of wisdom in the arguments, integrate it. Standing firm isn't about my way or the highway. It's about refusing to abandon core principles. You can remain open to learning without capitulating to groupthink. This balanced approach, responsive yet unwavering, often turns adversaries into allies because they see you are both principled and reasonable. Ultimately, the secret to holding firm when outnumbered lies in merging inner conviction with outer calm. It's a skill you hone through repeated tests. Each time you face a crowd that doubts you, you refine your ability to channel certainty without aggression. Over time, you develop an unshakable presence, a quiet magnetism that can turn a seemingly lost battle into a subtle victory. People might not proclaim you the winner, but you'll exit the situation having preserved your integrity and often left a deeper impression than any short-lived majority vote could overshadow. Chapter 3. How the universe rewards your courage. Choosing to stand your ground when outnumbered doesn't always yield immediate applause. Sometimes you walk away from a confrontation feeling drained, doubting if you made a dent in their opinions. Yet for chosen ones, the universe has a knack for responding to these acts of moral or spiritual bravery in ways that transcend immediate outcomes. You may not see the reward in the heat of the moment, but seeds are sown that eventually bloom into synchronicities, unexpected opportunities, or deeper personal growth. One common reward is the strengthening of your intuitive gifts. Every time you endure a trial like being outnumbered, your inner compass sharpens. You learn to read energies more accurately, to sense hidden agendas or illusions in people's words. This heightened discernment can guide you away from pitfalls in the future, ensuring you invest your time and emotional energy where it matters. People might comment on how you just know things before they unfold. That's the universe refining your sixth sense, a silent thumbs up for your courage in previous challenges. Another reward often takes the form of chance encounters that open doors you didn't realize existed. Perhaps you meet a mentor who resonates with the standpoint you defended, or a potential collaborator who admires the conviction you showed when you stood alone. These encounters can surface in the most mundane places, like waiting in line for coffee or while scrolling through social media. The universe orchestrates them, ensuring your boldness doesn't go unnoticed. Even if you're not actively networking, your energy draws in those who see your authenticity as a valuable asset. Moreover, the universe might orchestrate a scenario where your once doubtful detractors come around, albeit quietly. They might never say you were right, but their actions shift in alignment with what you championed. Without acknowledging it, they adopt your viewpoint or method. This can be deeply satisfying, albeit subtle. It's a spiritual nod that your stance wasn't in vain and that you nudged collective consciousness, even if no one rolled out a trophy. Sometimes real success is seeing the needle move, not hearing applause. Financial or material blessings can also materialize. Maybe you land a contract or a position that perfectly fits your skill set right after you refuse to compromise your principles in a debate or negotiation. At face value, these gains might seem unrelated, but the universe rarely draws direct lines for you. It's more about balancing scales on a cosmic level. You kept your integrity in a tough crowd. In return, you attract an abundance that reflects your high-frequency living. This isn't superstition. It's the principle of resonance at work. Finally, the universe rewards you by expanding your sense of purpose. Each time you stand firm in adversity, you clarify your mission. The bigger picture becomes more vivid. You're not just surviving life's friction, you're shaping the reality around you, inspiring others to question their limitations. Over time, you might even find yourself leading a community or a movement, called upon for guidance because you've proven you can withstand the storm. That's not accidental. It's an honor bestowed by the unseen realms that watch how you handle life's crucibles. In essence, the universe's rewards might not come labeled as for your courage in being outnumbered. They arrive in the guise of improved intuition, sudden alliances, or beneficial circumstances. Yet once you step back and connect the dots, you'll see a pattern. Your unwavering stance, even under heavy odds, sets off ripple effects that flourish into tangible blessings. That's how the cosmic ledger balances, ensuring that each test passed paves the way for greater expansions of your chosen path. Chapter 4. The Power Dynamic You Secretly Hold. It's often assumed that being outnumbered means you're at a disadvantage. But for a chosen one, the dynamic flips. The minute you step into a room where everyone else is locked into a singular viewpoint, you become the wild card, the factor that can shift the entire conversation or outcome. The secret power arises because you're not beholden to the group's echo chamber. You bring a fresh lens, guided by deeper intuition or moral clarity that the majority may have lost in their groupthink. The result? Even if you're a lone voice, you hold disproportionate influence. Part of this power dynamic stems from how group consensus can breed complacency. When most people agree on something, they rarely question it deeply. But your presence, your solitary stand, forces them to address overlooked assumptions. They might initially bristle or mock your perspective, yet that very mockery indicates they feel threatened by the new possibility you introduce. If your stance lacked merit, they'd ignore you. The fact they react strongly underscores that your viewpoint contains seeds potent enough to disrupt their comfortable, but possibly flawed, status quo. Another aspect is that chosen ones often harness spiritual backing. You're not reliant on the crowd for affirmation because your confidence flows from an internal wellspring. Maybe you spend time meditating, praying, or simply cultivating quiet self-belief, so you don't crumble when people challenge you. This calm self-assuredness can dazzle those who operate mainly on external validation. They sense something about you, an unflinching presence that transcends typical social maneuvering, and it piques their curiosity, if not respect. Moreover, your power grows each time you practice compassionate listening. Being outnumbered doesn't mean you have to fight fire with fire. Sometimes hearing people out with genuine interest can sway them more than any forceful argument. By staying respectful, even when they're condescending, you display a spiritual maturity that unsettles them. In a good way, their aggression or dismissal might bounce off you, making them question the utility of their approach. That doubt can open cracks in their unanimous front, giving your unique message a place to root. If your viewpoint proves correct or beneficial, the group's sense of security in their consensus shatters. Suddenly, you morph from underdog to innovator or savior figure. People might say, "We should have listened. You were onto something." Even if they don't verbalize it, they often shift their behavior to align with what you suggested. In that moment, your solitary voice becomes the pivot around which the group recalibrates. That's the hidden might of a chosen one, the ability to catalyze group evolution without drowning in the group's initial resistance. This dynamic doesn't guarantee easy victories. It's rarely comfortable. You may leave rooms feeling drained or second-guessing your approach. But in the grander scheme, your presence in such spaces is less about smooth experiences and more about transformation, both for yourself and for the collective. Realizing this reframes your challenges. You're not just the odd one out, you're the catalyst. And that's a mighty role. Embrace it. Each time you stand in the tension of being outnumbered yet steadfast, You unleash a quiet force that can bend even the most rigid group toward greater truth. Chapter 5. Channeling Adversity into Self-Mastery. Facing a room full of opposition can feel intimidating. Yet for chosen ones, adversity becomes a furnace that tempers you into something unbreakable. When you're challenged by a group, your nerves might spike and your heart may race. But that surge of energy is also raw potential. Handled correctly, it fuels clarity, sharpens your arguments, and fortifies your resolve. Handled poorly, it morphs into anxiety or anger, sabotaging your effectiveness. The key is learning to channel adversity into self-mastery, an art where each confrontation refines your spiritual and mental prowess. First, adopt a learner's mindset. Each time you enter a tough environment, treat it as a training ground. If the group is hostile or dismissive, observe how you react. Do you get defensive, trying to force your viewpoint, or can you remain composed, stepping into the role of an unflappable presence? By approaching adversity as a lesson, you demystify it. The situation becomes less about winning or losing and more about evolving your skill set, like public speaking, emotional regulation, or persuasive dialogue. Over time, you'll see marked growth in how calmly and effectively you navigate group tensions. Secondly, harness the adrenaline rush. When tension is high, your body releases stress hormones, heightening alertness. Instead of letting that adrenaline spiral into fear, direct it toward enhanced focus. Ground yourself physically, maybe by gripping a pen, planting your feet firmly, or taking a slow, deep breath. Then let that heightened awareness sharpen your perception. You'll notice facial expressions or tonal shifts that signal where the group's mentalities lie. This data can help you tailor your responses, pivoting arguments, or empathizing at the exact moments that weaken opposition and strengthen your stance. Adversity also fosters introspection. After a difficult meeting or conflict, reflect on what triggered you. Did someone's snide remark hit an old wound? Did a certain accusation make you doubt your own ideas momentarily? These triggers are gold for self-discovery. They show you where emotional vulnerabilities still reside. By healing those, through journaling, therapy, or spiritual practice, you disarm the next group conflict's ability to rattle you. Each confrontation thus becomes a stepping stone, exposing hidden corners of your psyche that are ripe for healing and growth. Additionally, adversity trains you in empathy. When everyone gangs up on you, it's tempting to demonize them. But if you ask what fears or insecurities drive their hostility, you gain compassion. That empathy shifts your approach from combative to transformative, which often disarms them more effectively than logical debate. People sense when your motives are bigger than just proving yourself right. They might not drop their hostility instantly, but seeds of understanding are sown, and chosen ones excel at planting seeds that eventually sprout change. Finally, adversity reveals your resilience. Each time you walk away intact, you carry an unspoken badge of honor. You didn't crumble. You didn't betray your values. Over time, this fosters unshakable self-trust. You think, if I survive that, I can handle what's next. That confidence is magnetic, drawing allies and opportunities. People notice someone who stands tall under pressure and are drawn to your quiet power. Ultimately, adversity morphs from an enemy into a sculptor, carving you into the refined instrument your higher mission demands. Embrace it, and you'll find that being outnumbered wasn't an obstacle. It was an indispensable step to your ascension. Chapter 6. Cultivating a network of A. Kindred spirits. While it's essential to stand strong on your own, chosen ones aren't meant to remain isolated. Being outnumbered can teach self-reliance, but at some point, the synergy of a supportive network multiplies your impact. Seek environments, spiritual communities, creative workshops, online groups, where empathy, curiosity, and growth are celebrated. You'll likely find individuals who share your values, understand your struggles, and long for deeper, more authentic connections. A supportive network is more than just feel-good camaraderie, it's a practical lifeline. If you're taking on a challenging project or moral stance that leaves you outnumbered, having allies to brainstorm solutions or provide emotional support can be the difference between burnout and breakthrough. They might share insights you've overlooked, introduce you to key contacts, or simply validate your commitment so you don't give up prematurely. In group settings, synergy can spark solutions no one person could devise alone. One individual's strategic mind, another's empathy, another's communication savvy. Together, they form a power team capable of far-reaching influence. You might co-create a small movement, a podcast, or a community initiative that pushes back against the norms once isolating you. By combining strengths, you transform uphill battles into collaborative victories. That said, discernment is vital. Not everyone who claims to share your ideals truly does. Some may latch on to a chosen one narrative for ego's sake or join the cause superficially. Look for consistency between words and actions. Genuine kindred spirits might not always agree with you, but they'll respect your stance and encourage constructive dialogue. Choose carefully who you let into your inner circle so it remains a nurturing space rooted in shared values and mutual growth. Finally, the morale boost from a real network of allies can't be overstated. It's one thing to motivate yourself alone. It's another to have people who celebrate your small wins and offer unwavering support when you falter. Over time, you realize that while you remain fully capable of standing alone, you no longer have to. This knowledge is like an invisible shield, empowering you further when facing skeptics or critics. Remember, you're part of a broader tapestry of light bearers, each committed to illuminating a world that needs every spark of hope. Chapter 7. Stepping Forward into Your Unstoppable Future. You've navigated being outnumbered and emerged empowered. Now you stand at a threshold leading to a future where your convictions, creativity, and compassion can flourish. Each challenge sharpened your clarity. Each small victory built momentum for the larger mission stirring within. The question is, how fully will you step into that purpose, unafraid of who might oppose you? Step 1. Own your story. Don't dismiss your struggles as mere hardships. See the growth in every confrontation. Each time you defended your perspective, those trials formed the backbone of your credibility, testifying to your resilience. Sharing your story isn't bragging, it's showing others what's possible. You become a beacon for people overwhelmed by the majority, reminding them, if I can, so can you. Step 2. Set a clear direction for your newfound power. Maybe you'll lead a project addressing a social or environmental issue, or perhaps you'll create art that comforts those facing darkness. Whatever your calling, your voice, once solitary, is now amplified. You've been prepared for leadership, even if inadvertently. Embrace it. Your perspective, forged by adversity and tempered by introspection, can cut through life's noise and spark genuine transformation. Stay humble. Yes, you've prevailed when outnumbered, but you're still growing. Great leaders remain open to new learning, guidance, and constructive critique. This openness aligns you with divine nudges, ensuring you evolve rather than stagnate. Arrogance, by contrast, sets the stage for complacency and eventual decline. Integrate rest and reflection. Constantly being the strong one is draining. If you never replenish, you risk burning out. Schedule downtime to nurture your spirit. Time in nature, creative pursuits, or soul-centered practices. This isn't laziness. It's necessary maintenance. A brightly burning flame needs oxygen and quiet intervals to remain strong. Finally, walk forward with confidence. Know that your perspective is needed. You've already proven you can stand firm under multiple voices, guided by a moral and spiritual compass that refuses to yield. Let your past victories propel you forward, knowing that no matter how large the crowd, your truth stands firm. In a world craving authentic courage, your unwavering presence is not just welcome, it's revolutionary. Step into your destiny. The time is now. This is the moment you were made for.